What's up, everyone? It is your girl, GELBEAUTY 87 here, aka Grace. It's time for another underrated versus overrated. So, y'all know how this works. I got a whole bunch of palettes to talk about that I feel like are underrated compared to their counterparts. Now, just starting off, everything I talk about, I don't think it's necessarily overrated. It's just, you know how some brands get hyped more than other brands, even though the other brand has just as good quality, similar color stories and things of that nature. So that's what these videos are about the good majority of the time. I'm never saying this stuff is like overrated compared to some other brand or some other products. Now, every once in a while, it truly is how I feel, but the majority of the time, it's just lighthearted and it's like, hey, if you have this thing, you might want to consider buying from this brand instead. Or if you've never heard of this brand and want to try something new, you might want to get them instead of this hyped product from someone else. So a lot of times that's what this is about. So don't take it so seriously as me being like, oh, well, you know, she likes that brand over this brand and I prefer that brand, so now I'm gonna have an attitude like, sis, it ain't all that. It's not all that deep. It ain't all that. Just FYI. Now let's get into it. So the first one is overrated versus underrated. I have the Adept Cosmetics Sun Soaked High Shine Highlighters. I have the shade Le Play. Of course, they did the classic 3 shades where you get like a gold for some of my skin tone. Then I think there's like a bronzy one. And then I think there's more like a champagne gold. So that everybody has one for their skin tone. But this is the one I ended up with. The formula of this is actually really nice. It's kind of like a more bougie version of like a super shock highlighter in my personal opinion. It has more of a thicker consistency. But it looks just as nice on the skin, if not better. And I feel like I heard people talking about these when they first launched for a little while, but the brand I feel like I hear hardly no one talking about is J-Cat Beauty. I've only heard Andrea Montanalo and I think Babs Beauty, Stephanie here on YouTube talking about this brand. So I wanted to compare this highlighter to that highlighter because the formulas on these feel almost exactly the same. This feels just as creamy and nice as the Adept Cosmetics one. I think this one has more colors than the Adept Cosmetics one. It might not. I'm not 100% sure. I got the shade Rose Gold in this one, but the formulas on them are the same and it looks so beautiful on the skin. You all recently saw me use this one in a video. Matter of fact, I think it was today's video when I compared this to the I think I compared this to Pillow Talk. No, you saw that in my try on haul from what do you call it, Sephora part 1, because I got like another package coming tomorrow supposedly. But yeah, so this highlighter performed just as nice as that one, if not better. I feel like it gave a better beam on the skin, and this rose gold looked a little bit better on my skin than Pillow Talk did. So I definitely recommend this product, and I definitely feel like J-Cat Beauty is an underrated brand. I want to get an eyeshadow palette from them. I was looking at one. I don't remember if I put it in my cart or not, but I definitely want to try it out because Andrea Montanalo raves about how pigmented and wonderful their quality is for a drugstore brand. So I'd be interested in trying another drugstore brand formula of eyeshadows because I feel like I only have like ColourPop to choose from. What's the other one? LA Girl. And I'm trying to think of any other ones. The Catrice little 5 pans were okay, but Catrice isn't sold at Ulta anymore. So I feel like there's not that many drugstore brands that give quality eyeshadows. You have to look more toward affordable, or don't say Profusion in the comment section. I don't mess with Profusion. I don't like Profusion, so don't even mention them to me. But yeah, I want to find some more affordable drugstore eyeshadows just to try out for you all, because I feel like that'd be fun instead of always having to push indie or high-end or luxury, because I feel like there aren't that many affordable brands to choose from. So name anybody but Profusion and Juvia's place and places like that, honey. Okay, thank you so much. So next we're gonna get into another wait, do I have both the palettes here? Yeah, another black owned brand. Wait, no, that's not a black owned brand. Sorry, we're gonna get into some black owned brands. So the first palettes I have, underrated versus overrated, I have the Adept Cosmetics Plain Jane Remastered palette. Now y'all know I live, breathe, and love all Adept Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. The only one that was just okay to me was Emmett New, but all of her other palettes I'm here for. It's a whole vibe. I own every single palette that the woman has. So needless to say, I'm in love. But underrated versus overrated, as you can see, this Plain Jane Remastered looks really similar to this Paint Me Chrome palette from Playing the Makeup by Yolanda. I feel like this brand is definitely underrated. Like, and then it didn't help that Michaela shaved the brand on TikTok. I'm told. I didn't see it. I think I saw her rebuttal to what Michaela said about the way her eyeshadow swatched. But you know, I don't know too much of anything else about that. But I definitely feel like this palette is just as good as this palette, and she doesn't get as much hype as she should. So I want to make sure I put this one in this video. You all see the haul on this palette before you see, you know, like me actually use it, if you will. No, matter of fact, you see me use it in the haul video. So you'll see me using this alongside her new palette that came out, just because you all said you wanted to see some more Planet Makeup by Yolanda. The reason I wouldn't review it that often because I felt like when I did, you all didn't really care as much. But since you're saying you do, I would definitely have no problem supporting, you know, a black queen like myself. If I remember correctly, she is Jamaican. And you know I'm here for it. It's a whole vibe. So I'm not saying the remastered palette is underrated, overrated by any means. I'm just saying there are always alternatives out here, and I want to show you one with this Paint With Me palette, or Paint Me Chrome palette from Planet Makeup by Yolanda. I actually got to do a video with this when I get done filming this, so how about that? So the next one I have to talk about, I need to put that away. Underrated versus overrated. This is the Ensley Cosmetics 1964 palette that they came out with alongside the Juvia's Place Dupes palette. Now I don't know if they make this one anymore, but I feel like the color stories in these are quite similar. I feel like if you cover up certain colors in this palette, it will give like the same vibes as the Dupes palette. Let me show you. So like I feel like if you cover up the blue and the like green shimmer at the top there, like you get pretty much the same color story. Because see, already covering this up, I feel like you can see the similarity in it, and maybe like the bright green too. But I feel like just overall, if you covered up the green and the blue in this palette, you'll get the same vibe as this palette. So I feel like if you already have this palette, you don't necessarily need this one. You didn't need to go out and get this one. This one was limited edition and she didn't bring it back anyway, but I just wanted to show you that, you know, there are similarities in them. And I kind of want to do 5 alternatives to limited edition palettes, but I don't know if the Dupes is going to come back. You know, they like to bring stuff back and then take it away and bring stuff back or whatever. So I'm like, I don't know if I can do that video because, you know. And plus, there was inconsistencies in these palettes. If you all remember from my video from Halloween, how my, what was that, the Weirdos palette, like the shade was dried up when I got the palette and I hadn't even like used the palette. I used it in that video and the shade was already dry. So like the Dupes won't have that issue with it. So that was another reason I wanted to point it out. I got one more Planet Makeup by Yolanda palette to compare. So next we have underrated versus overrated. This is the Surge palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. Y'all know I love Blend Bunny to death. I have every single palette they have come out with as far as face palettes. I mean, as far as eye palettes, I didn't grab the face palettes yet. I'm trying to debate if I want to or not because I have so many new blushes coming, like the luminous blushes from Giorgio Armani are coming, and then I got other stuff going on. And I'm trying to put out old stuff too, so that way we don't buy a whole bunch of new stuff. So like, I didn't necessarily rush out to get the face palettes. I mean, I might get them eventually, knowing me, but it's like I just didn't, it wasn't something I was gonna rush to get. So don't look for a review from me. I'm sure other people will. I know there are other content creators on the PR list that got it and probably already have a video up, so you can go check out their video. For once, I just wasn't going out to grab it. But I have the Planet Makeup by Yolanda Refresh Jamrock palette here to compare to the Surge palette. Matter of fact, my girl, Dr. Ashley, her makeup guy is sending PR, so you can look at Ashley's video. She did a video with that and some other things. I'm pretty sure it's Pat McGrath blushes, and it was one other thing. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a highlighter from Tom Ford. But make sure you go check out Ashley's video if you're interested in those blushes, because I know it's up already. I saw it on her Instagram, if I remember correctly. Anyway, these palettes, I'm not saying they're exact, but y'all see these neon bright colors at the bottom. I grab this palette to mainly focus on those, not necessarily the palette as a whole, because you know she did like a pastel to a grunge to a deep dark to like a more neon-y. So I figured this palette could be a good alternative if you want more neons that'll work better for people with my skin tone. There's a little bit of depth in here too for you to put on the outer V, which I can appreciate. And again, I just feel like this brand is like kind of underrated and doesn't get talked about as much. So this is my overrated versus underrated, with the Blend Bunny Surge palette versus the Refresh Jamrock palette from Planet Makeup by Yolanda. So it just looks like she refreshed all her palettes, because I remember having this palette too, and I think I ended up decluttering because I wasn't as crazy about it as much as well. So I might end up giving this to my friend. I know for her birthday she's trying to get like a pink look, and as you can see there's a few pinks in here for her to choose from. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and declutter this one. We'll see, just because I have so many colorful palettes and a lot of them I don't necessarily reach for, and I feel like this is what I'm gonna get most use out of, because I have to grab, you know, shimmers and go with it. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the brand as a whole. Jamrock No Limitations will forever be like one of my all-time favorite palettes from this brand. It's just this one, I'm not necessarily like crazy about the fact that it's all matte colorful, and I feel like some of the colors are kind of repetitive. But I like to shout out black on brand, like I said, so I made sure I went ahead and talked about them. And if you already have this one in your collection, this is another reason you don't necessarily need to get this one. So overrated versus underrated. Okay, so the next palette, one of my friends actually let me borrow, because if you all remember, I don't buy from ABH anymore. So this overrated versus underrated is the what is this, the ABH Nouveau palette alongside the Sydney Grace X Tintalia on the Horizon in the shade dark. So this is my girl Dr. Ashley, her makeup's favorite palette from the brand, and this is what the Nouveau palette looks like. So I feel like they looked pretty similar, and I feel like this palette definitely got a lot of hype, and people talking about ABH's new formula, how wonderful it was and all that. So I just felt like I wanted to show this one alongside this one to show that they have similar color stories to them, and since this one's limited edition, it would be a good time for you to pick it up before they get rid of it. I don't know how long her collab with them lasts, so I definitely think you should go ahead and pick it up. Plus, I feel like these shades are kind of light for some of my skin tone, and the fact that Sydney Grace has light and dark ones, I feel like it would cater better to people my skin tone to have the on the Horizon palette. Aside from the fact, if you just want this one blue purple shade, just go ahead and buy a purple single from Sydney Grace while you're buying this palette, and your problem is solved. Or just dip into a purple palette shadow and another one of your palettes. But I definitely feel like this palette was underrated, and this collection was underrated. So I definitely want to make sure I shouted out Talia's palette, because they say she's been in the makeup game for a really long time, and I definitely feel like she deserved this collab. And I want to shout it out some more before it goes away, because I don't know when it's leaving, but I think you should get your hands on it before it does, because it's exceptional. So overrated versus underrated. Let's get into this one real quick, because I sat it on the side and I know I'll forget about it. So the next underrated versus overrated is, I know you can't get this anymore, but I just want to talk about it because I love Sir John, who is Beyonce's makeup artist, if you didn't know that. And this is the Bijouette palette from Viseart. So I feel like these palettes look similar. Now with the Sir John one, you're going to get more skin tone colors, because he tried to make sure he had skin tone colors for just about everybody's skin tone. Whereas with this one, you got this one dark shade, this one, well, you got 3 neutrals and then a whole bunch of just colorful shimmers. So I feel like they do pretty much the same thing, and this one just got more hype because it's Viseart. And since people don't really know who Luminous is that much, other than like the airbrush spraying face makeup, that people weren't that interested in it. But I think this was the quality palette. I heard some people saying that the shadows were, I think, too dry or too hard or something. I didn't have that issue with this palette, and I just wanted to give it some love and show it off, especially since I felt like at the time it came out, it didn't get the love it deserved. So I wanted to go ahead and show off the both of these and say that I felt like this one was just a little bit overrated, just because it was from Viseart and everybody knows what Viseart is, and since people aren't as familiar with Luminous, it didn't get as much love it deserved. So I'm giving it some now, and I'm pretty sure I did a video on it when it came out as well, to show my appreciation, because I think that is a stunning palette. That's one of my go-to. I'm an emergency, because y'all saw I had my blue, I had my green, and had my purple. Like, honey, it was just giving everything I need. So next, underrated versus overrated. This is the Nomad Royal palette, Euro palette, up against the Aero inspired palette from Adept. Now, actually, I feel like the Nomad one is the one that's been getting all the hype and is overrated. I think it's because they just added multi-chromes to their palette. They first got multi-chromes like in a palette, a whole bunch of them, because if you all remember in the Costa Rica palette, they sneaked in and gave us one like dual chroma shade, and now they're multi-chromes in this one. And I feel like this one didn't get as much love, but in all fairness, she didn't keep this palette around long enough to get a lot of love. So I don't know if it's necessarily fair to put it in here, but I feel like since this one stayed around for a while and people have been talking about it and doing a whole bunch of looks with it, that it's kind of like got more attention than this did. And I feel like this one, because it has more multi-chromes and we know the formula, and I love the formula of Adept, I feel like this one just didn't get as much love. So I'm actually making the more higher price one underrated, as opposed to the more affordable one overrated, just because I feel like this one got more love than this one did. But like I said, this one was out for a short amount of time, as opposed to this one, at least in my personal opinion. And I think this is part of the permanent collection, if I remember correctly, whereas Adept does a lot of limited edition stuff. So I felt like this one was overrated versus this one being underrated. So that's how I ranked them. You can comment down below and tell me if you feel different. So the next underrated versus overrated I have is from Mother. So the last two are from Mother. So I have this Bridgerton Pat McGrath X Bridgerton. This is Diamond of the First Water, alongside the Nabla Soul Blooming palette. So I feel like Nabla Soul Blooming palette was underrated for sure when it came out. I believe you can still buy it on I don't know if they even still have it on their website anymore, but I thought it was a gorgeous color story. It has that little weird bluish purple grayish shade that I like so much, and I felt like this palette was a good alternative to that one. And of course, because it's Pat McGrath, it's going to be raved that happens. I heard the formula on this wasn't that great. I didn't have any personal bad experiences with it. I felt like it was just as nice as the Dreamy palette. A lot of people said that they felt like it wasn't. So I felt like they were equal. I feel like they were the same. And I feel like Naba doesn't get as much love as they should. So if you can still find this palette, I would definitely say look into it. I like the colors for this one a little bit better. It gives you like neutrals, it gives you pinks, and gives you a row of purple cool tone, if you will. Whereas you see Mother just did her normal pink mauve thing and popped in like a bluish purple shifting shade. So I feel like this one is definitely underrated and this one was overrated, considering these are a lot of same colors she gives us over and over again, and this one like special sparkly shade that she has a tendency to do is supposed to make us just be so overwhelmed and excited, and I just, you know, want more. It's like, you know, give me more. I want more. So there you go. But that's my underrated versus overrated. I should have a video coming up soon, if it's not already up, on brands you sleep on that you shouldn't. And Naba is one of the brands I feel like you sleep on that they shouldn't. I think that one already went up, as a matter of fact, because I think one of y'all was telling me how you like the highlighters from the brand or something like that. I don't remember, so don't quote me. But yeah. Next underrated versus overrated is the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity palette alongside the Man Eater palette from Tarte. I know, right? Tarte going up against Pat McGrath and saying that Tarte is underrated. But see, what had happened was they actually came through and gave a good quality and a decent color story for all skin tones with this palette, as opposed to it being like 10 of this shade and then like 2 brown. So I feel like their ratio in this one was a whole lot better than it has been a lot of their palettes for like years. And both of them even open up the same way. How about that? But this one is limited edition. You can't get it anymore. So that's why I kind of wanted to make sure I, you know, showed off that there is a good alternative with the Tarte one. Just keep in mind, you're not gonna get that blue and then bright green, but it's like it has a darker green in it, and I'm sure you can find a pop of blue or just pull a blue single out of your collection to use if that's what you wanted to go for. But I definitely feel like the formula on this is really good, and I heard people talk about it for like a hot second. I haven't heard anybody else talk about it, so just in case you're looking for an alternative to the Pat McGrath palette, I definitely wanted to make sure that you got to see this one as a good alternative. So I think that concludes it, y'all. I know, right? That was long enough. I've been sitting here like almost 20 minutes talking about eyeshadow palettes and other things, but those are the things I had to talk about today. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all are diamonds. You can comment down below and tell me if you agree or disagree with my thoughts on these palettes, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be blessed, girl. Bye.